Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
It's a great job. It's been real stressful lately.
Behind the bus driver sickouts across the state.
You're looking at millions of barrels a day of new supply that you're going to need.
Will the ethanol waiver lower what we pay for gas?
We're going to try to do ministry in the world the way it is.
Rethinking going to church.
So most of the breeding grounds, I guess you can say, are normal to above normal.
A forecast that brings fear.
Hey everyone, I'm Andre Morrow. Kara St. Cyr is off tonight. People 50 and older are now eligible for a second booster shot. But is it worth it? Experts at the CDC say the shot adds more protection against COVID variants, especially if you're gathering with a lot of family over the Easter holiday weekend. COVID itself continues to trend downward in the state. Right now, 63 are hospitalized. And now let's take a look at some other news headlines from around our state.
A key step New Orleans took to prevent the spread of COVID at the height of the pandemic would be prohibited under legislation a House committee approved Tuesday. Shreveport Republican Thomas Presley introduced a bill that would keep state and local governments from requiring proof of COVID vaccination to enter public or private places. The Health and Welfare Committee approved it 12-5, and next it goes to the full House. A Baker man will likely spend the rest of his life in prison for the 2018 shooting death of LSU basketball star Wade Sims. It took a Baton Rouge jury 90 minutes to find Detion Simpson of Baker guilty of second-degree murder. Sims was shot in the face as he tried to break up a fight outside a Southern University frat party. The shooting happened just hours before Sims would have begun practice to begin his junior season at LSU. The University of Notre Dame will present its prestigious Laetare Medal to the founder of Rise St. James, Sharon Levine. Levine has worked without rest for the health of her community and the planet. That's the words from Notre Dame President Reverend John Jenkins. Levine is a grandmother and retired special education teacher who has a gentle way about her, yet is described as a roaring lion when taking on giant chemical companies in her native St. James Parish. The EPA is investigating whether the state's health and environmental agencies discriminated against black residents in connection with air pollution from existing and proposed facilities between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. 2 complaints accuse the State Department of Environmental Quality and State Department of Health of paying too little attention to environmental justice.
There is not a soul in Louisiana that will be surprised to hear this, that the Colorado State hurricane forecast for this year, a 7th straight year, is above active. So, Barry Keim, Louisiana's state climatologist, is here with me. No one's surprised about that, but what are the reasons that go into that forecasting model?
Okay, well, for starters, they're predicting 19 named storms, of which 9 will become hurricanes, 4 will become major hurricanes. The long-term average is, or an average season, is 14 named storms. They're predicting 19 to put some perspective on it. So the reason for this is really twofold. There are 2 main parameters that they look at. The first is, are we in El Nino or La Nina, or are we going to be neutral? This season, I think the big take-home message is we will not have an El Nino. El Ninos mitigate potential for hurricanes. So,
We won't have that help.
we won't have that. We will not have help from an El Nino. We're starting out in a weak La Nina, but they're expecting that to fizzle out by the time we get into the later summer and into the fall during the meat of the season. So we'll probably be ENSO neutral. So that's one parameter.
And then the sea surface temperature.
Yeah. So the sea surface temperature it's a little bit of a mixed bag. Most of where the breeding grounds are near normal. The exception is the Caribbean and the subtropical Atlantic are both running above normal. So most of the breeding grounds, I guess you can say, are normal to above normal, and you put that together with the lack of an El Nino and just the pattern we've been in since 1995, with most seasons being hyperactive.
Right, exactly.
They're calling for 19 named storms, so yet another season with above normal activity.
Hurricanes are completely on the mind of people. You just go back to 2017, beginning with Harvey, and that odd storm of humongous rainfall, and then our storms of the past few years, the worst storms to ever hit Louisiana. Everyone has that fresh in their mind and still trying to even recover from that, and then taking on the idea of another season coming at us that's supposed to be worse than maybe the previous one.
Right. So the last 2 years, we've had 51 named storms in the Atlantic Basin, and a lot of activity obviously has been around Louisiana. 51 named storms, whereas 28 would be considered average. And so it's been crazy. Not only that, but Louisiana has been right in the sights of these hurricane seasons. I mean, we've had more activity than almost anybody. We've had 6 landfalls in Louisiana just in the last 2 years. 3 of those were major hurricanes. And 2 of those are tied for the strongest storms to ever hit Louisiana.
So there's here saying that we're just telling you the forecast to get you ready. Basically, it's an early preparation for what will be to come. Supposedly, and June 1st is the official date. Those storms happened before that. Let me mention this real quick. LSU has done some Gulf Coast specific data that we will also be looking at by June 1st, I believe.
That's correct. So what they're doing is putting together a regional specific forecast for the Gulf Coast based on what's going on in the Gulf of Mexico relative to what these long-range forecasts are for the entire basin. So we'll get a tailored forecast for what the Gulf may look like coming out of the LSU group pretty soon.
All right. Very kind. Thanks so much. I have a feeling we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Great to be here.
Thank you. Across Louisiana, bus drivers have staged sick-outs, leaving kids without rides to and from school. The drivers are asking for more money, not just for salary, but for bus maintenance, which is mostly out of pocket. Kara St. Cyr reports from Jefferson Parish.
In the morning, I usually get up around 5 o'clock, get ready for work, leave because I live in LaPlace, so I leave home about 5:50. Get to my bus, do my pre-trip inspection, do my route. After my route, I usually go back home until it's time to come back to work, I got into it from my sister. She started before me. She started in 2006, and I started in 2007. It was a great job. It is a great job, don't get me wrong. Let me rephrase that. It's a great job. It's been real stressful lately. But when I first started, it was like awesome. I loved going to work. I never realized that the people who drove the buses, most of them in Jefferson Parish, were owner operators.
You don't have to. You can become an operator.
No. 2009, there was no more operators. You were a substitute.
When I came in the system, you could be an operator.
So in 2009, if you remember, they had all of the operators come in for a meeting stating that either we bought a bus or we went to being a substitute driver, right, which meant we were going to lose all our benefits.
Right.
Okay? So they left us really no choice but to go buy a bus. So that's what made me and my best friend, we went out and bought us a bus, Around 2010, 2000, they just started changing a lot of things with the school system, as far as like the field trips on how you get paid, and it started to make things difficult. And then when your bus starts to break down, and you don't have the funds to fix it, that's when things weren't so
great, because maintenance requires oil changes, tires, batteries, greasing. Oh God, an oil change on your bus. To have someone do it, and it has to be done twice a year, is anywhere from $500 to $600.
You know, little things that you wouldn't think cost that much money, it's a fortune.
There.
Oh, but he wrote best bus driver.
They wrote bus driver, not.
Oh my goodness, this really is a thankless job.
Right?
I came into the system where they was trying to organize sick outs. So this been going on that many years. Well, this particular time we seem to have gotten enough drivers together. That first sick out we did Mardi Gras week, where they felt it.
You know, we just don't feel like we make enough money.
And it's more than what we want. It's what we need.
Right,
It's to
exactly.
really want.
Right, it's not about what we want, because, you know, right now we need this, you know. Yeah, I mean,
If we don't stick together, we'll never
Right,
get what we want.
right.
We know these children have to be transported. So by doing a sick out, we're hoping that we can come to some kind of agreement once we put on the table what we wanted. Maybe they wasn't going to agree to pay us just what we came to the table with, but they could have come back with a counter offer, just something to ease the pain that we're feeling.
right.
You know, but they didn't come back with anything, not
Right.
50 cents, you know, and that lets you see how we're appreciated. They
Right.
don't care. That's how I feel.
The bus driver shortage is a statewide issue. Some districts have been offering sign-on bonuses to increase their roster, and right here in Tangipahoa Parish, they've been offering monthly recruitment sessions to attract more drivers. So they're actually having one of those sessions right now, and we're going to sit in on one of those meetings.
All right, well, welcome. Welcome to the Louisiana School Bus Driving Course.
Is it only for a substitute position? Or?
It's only for a substitute. You have to be a substitute before you're hired, but because of the shortage, some people that might be in the room might make a different call.
Okay.
We have some 244 buses transporting 13,000 students across the parish from the Mississippi state line all the way to Manchac. And there's a lot of moving parts to make that happen every single day. And you know, when you're doing something like that, there's going to be bumps, there's going to be bruises along the way. There's going to be issues that arise. There will be complaints. It's a nature of the beast. So we need 244 drivers. We're missing 40. So this is the way we're trying to address the driver shortage issue, and that's more training. And after, you know, the attrition, we bumped that from once a year to 4 times a year. And now we're up to every month. The starting salary for a bus driver is right around $20 an hour with 5 hours of work per day. It's about benefits for us, and that's kind of what we tell drivers or potential drivers, is that we have great medical benefits. And when you look at it 5 hours a day, you still got some time to do other things, right?
Well, have you heard about the sick outs that are going on in different parishes in Louisiana?
Yes, we've heard about them. They've happened quite frequently across the state, and we hadn't been immune to it here in our parish. We've had them here, but we've been dealing with those and trying to understand the issues that the drivers have, listening to the driver, and then trying to resolve those issues that we can.
What are the chief complaints?
Obviously, salary is a huge issue, and there's been some complaints about fuel costs, and we're working through those. But salary has been one of those things that not only we hear about, but districts across the state.
How long do you think it'll take before the problem is fully addressed with a solution?
I wish I knew. It's not happening soon enough for me. But again, all I can say is, you know, our team, the powers that be, the administrators, the leaders of the school district, we're doing everything we can to understand what those issues are and resolve them.
But I noticed that other one you were giving me, I don't know if it was a different thing, but
Patrick and her sisters say that they have reached out to the school board, but no real answers yet. The Biden administration is searching to stem inflation and the price of gas. He waived the ethanol ban this week, which could help. But how much? Kara hears from energy expert Dr. David Dismukes from LSU.
Inflation now reaching a 40-year high, and Americans are feeling the burden in everyday life. But gas still remains the bulk of increased costs.
Thank you very, very much.
President Joe Biden rolled out one of his solutions in Iowa Tuesday afternoon. He'll temporarily waive the ethanol rule, which prevents gas with 15% ethanol blend from hitting gas stations during the summer months. It's an attempt to reduce smog and emissions.
It's a wartime bridge to increase oil supply as we work with U.S. oil producers to ramp up their production this year.
The move is expected to bring gas prices down, especially in Midwestern and Southern states like Louisiana. But David Dismukes, an energy studies professor at LSU, says that Louisianians won't see a dramatic change at the pumps.
The problem is you can't go in and change a fundamental supply problem with fossil fuels with a non-fossil fuel answer.
Dismukes says the amount of ethanol gas being distributed isn't enough to make a large impact. The E15 gasoline will only be available at 2,300 pumps nationwide. Biden anticipates a 10-cent drop in prices on average, but Dismukes doubts we'll see that much.
Gasoline demand is somewhere in the 9.5, somewhere between 9.5 million barrels a day. So you got to get into somewhere around 10-20% of that market. So you're looking at millions of barrels a day of new supply that you're going to need to probably start moving the needle.
This is only one of several tactics the president has employed to manage inflation rates. Last month, he ordered the release of 1 million barrels a day from the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve, which did lower prices slightly. But Dismukes says only time will tell what will truly drop gas prices.
E15 will be available from June to September. During COVID's peak, churches closed and services went online. Things have been mostly back to normal for many months now. Last week, we reported that people are not rushing to fill state jobs. What about churches, though? Are they having trouble filling the pews? Reverend Brady Whitten, pastor of First United Methodist Church in Baton Rouge, says it's a mixed bag.
We literally shut the doors of the church for about a 5-month period of time. Shifted, like many churches did, our ministries to primarily online ministries. And interestingly, people made that shift with us. And so they started coming to church online, and it was kind of a lot of fun for a while, a lot of work,
yes,
but a lot of fun. And then people's interest in being online sort of started to wane a little bit. So there was if you talk to most church professionals, there was a big spike in online worship attendance, and then people started getting distracted and doing other things. But at this point, the last time we measured some statistics here at our church, we were probably at about 40% of our people who had come back in person, and this was at the end of 2021. 40% of our people who had come back in person, and 60% still watching online.
Okay.
Since then, as again, Omicron has passed and everything, we're probably up to about 60% in person now. But a lot of our folks have not returned. And there's the question that a lot of church professionals are asking, are they going to? There was, I think Gallup put a report out in 2020 that showed for the first time since they had been tracking this data, and it was from the 30s, fewer people attended than didn't attend a church, mosque, or synagogue. And that's the first time that happened, and it was in 2020. So there was already a trend to people not attending church. And again, I think the pandemic sort of sped that up for some people.
Yeah, it sped that up.
You know, what does it say about our society? I still think about 80% of the people say they believe in God.
Right.
And a large number of people say that they're spiritual. So, maybe the church isn't doing as good a job as we need to be doing. I think maybe people's lives are really busy and hectic, and they're, while they still believe in God and they still have faith, maybe church participation and church involvement isn't a priority in their lives. I tend to think it's the church's job to meet people where they are. It would be nice if people would give us a little commitment in response. I think that's part of it. But I know, people are busy They're hurting, they need the church, and they need God, and as a Christian, they need the gospel as much as ever.
And the fellowship
Yep.
that comes
Yep.
with it.
And so I think the church has to sort of, rethink some things about how we're engaging with people in the world that we live in.
So with that in mind, how has First United Methodist and then many churches rethought what you might be doing?
Yeah, so probably the biggest thing that we've done, we had already, our contemporary worship service was already online, but we've put all of our traditional services also online, and we're really trying to, you look at where is the town square nowadays. The town square is in these digital spaces.
Yeah.
And so I've started doing all of my Bible studies are hybrid. So we have some people in the room, I have some people online. There's some interesting technology around that. We do a prayer time.
For Bible studies?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And people are live. They're there on Zoom. We have a cool thing called an owl that allows us to do it hybrid. We offer prayer every morning online at 7 a.m. And so we've been moving into some digital spaces in a way that we did not before, to reach out to people and really connect with them where they are, in their cars as they're listening to things. We had a young man during the pandemic who attended Sunday school from the sideline of the soccer field with his phone. And so there's all kinds of interesting things you can do there, and we're continuing to find out how can we engage people where they are, because clearly people are not coming to the church buildings the way they were, in the year 1995, and since for a long time now.
So adapting to that and adapting to what the present future will be.
Right. Somebody years ago said the line to me, I always remember, it said, you can either do ministry in the world the way it is, or you can do ministry in the world the way you wish it was. So we're going to try to do ministry in the world the way it is. And people are scattered now. But I still believe they have faith. I still believe they need the church and they need what we have to offer. It's just up to us to figure out how to engage them.
As always, our thanks to Brady Whitten for his insight. This week's LPB Young Hero Spotlight shines on Buckeye High School senior Gabe Hoosier. He's a natural-born leader and a giver, and he's had role model parents teaching him every step of the way.
When you watch 17-year-old Gabe Hoosier and see what makes him tick, it quickly becomes apparent why the actions of this soft-spoken teenager from Rapides Parish separate him from the crowd.
Well, first of all, I'm not only his parent, I'm his teacher and his coach. So I've been teaching my own son for 3 years, high school science at Buckeye High School. And I've been coaching him for just as many years in varsity powerlifting. I'm the powerlifting boys and girls coach at our school. So, as a parent, you see a lot of things at home, but sometimes your kids might act a little different at school. And, I'm really proud to say that being there, being a sponsor, being his teacher, I've been able to see what a positive influence he's, been, and his involvement and his leadership, and what a good role model he's been.
What is something that Gabe has done that stands out to you?
One of the biggest things would be his leadership in our National Honor Society, which really focuses on working with people that are either underprivileged, maybe minorities. Like for today, for example, they actually worked with the special needs students of Rapides Parish, and there was a prom, and he went and worked the prom. Same thing with the special needs adults in Alexandria, with the Homeless Coalition. Just, a lot of high schoolers are a little bit more self-centered usually, and you don't often see them volunteering multiple times a week for other organizations. And although it's few and far between, he's consistently been a leader at our school that's led our chapter in those community service organization activities, and people see that, and that's, positive change. They want to be involved.
So Gabe, where does that come from for you?
Really my whole entire life, I always look around, and it's never been, I want to look around and see how I can help myself the most. I look around and I see somebody else hurting, somebody else suffering, or any other, bad things going on in the world. And I'm like, if there's any way that I could help, I would love to help. And that's pretty much what I do. I go around finding any way possible that I can help other people.
Gabe, there's something called Cinderella's Closet that you're involved in there at your school, and tell me exactly what that is.
It's a organization that's locally run by the teachers and some of the students, where we help children that are not fortunate enough, or just, whatever outside circumstances going on. We help kids get a dress for either homecoming or prom.
Gabe is the oldest of 3 siblings, with his youngest sister being adopted at birth. That little sister, who is biracial, is one of the joys of Gabe's life, and she can be a teaching opportunity for him when confronted by people with certain judgments.
Actually, my mom was adopted as a kid, so that actually has a lot to do with our family. You know, she's very proud to be adopted and be raised with the parents that she was raised, and she always wanted to be able to take that chance to adopt one of her own. And obviously, I'm always with her with that. You know, I love my sister at the bottom of my heart. You know, she's very cute, she's loving, she's just a great person to be around. And it was really all because of my mom. It was her idea. She said, you know, I was adopted, this means a lot to me, and I want to be able to help somebody else out too.
He's just your normal high school kid that's trying to, you know, have his own fun and go to school and do sports and make good grades. He's got the normal dreams and aspirations. It's the small things in life that we all do on a day-to-day basis that can, you know, make a ripple and impact the world around you and cause change, you know, and I'm real big about that. And he's learning that little by little, and I think that's important for us to do in, you know, raising the next generation. So that's what I hope it does, is it makes a change.
Gabe plans to attend UL Monroe, and he's very excited about a career as a physical therapist. LPB's Louisiana Young Heroes program is presented this year with the generous support of AmeriHealth Caritas Louisiana, East Baton Rouge Parish Library, Community Coffee, the U.S. Army Baton Rouge Recruiting Battalion, Demco, and Hotel Indigo. And everyone, that's our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our LPB PBS app. You can get LPB news and public affairs shows and other Louisiana programs that you've come to enjoy over the years. And please like us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. For everyone at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Morrow. Until next time, happy Easter. That's the state we're in.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.